You guys, I had a absolutely game-changing epiphany yesterday that's made me think maybe I actually wasn't as ready as I thought I was for what I've been waiting for. Yeah, it's about to get so deep, and it's all to do with me going to Italy and the fact I've been back for 3 years, because I think I completely missed the point. And it all goes back to the scripture that I've been saying to you guys, and I've been talking about, let's make it to the promised land. And I talk about how one of the things that God says to Joshua in Joshua 1 is be strong and courageous, right? And I think about that scripture because I feel like him saying that to Joshua is him kind of, in my opinion, correcting what didn't go right with Moses and the Israelites. You know, obviously Moses had been consumed with anxiety, which I've been consumed with anxiety as well. As you guys know, I've been talking about it in order to kind of address it. And honestly, I feel like when it comes to deliverance, some deliverance is overnight and some deliverance is like over time. And I will say that like bit by bit, since I brought it up to you guys, I'm actually like getting through it. Like it's actually getting better because I'm addressing it with the Lord. So anyway, it all goes back to Italy and me realizing that I think the one thing I was supposed to do, I didn't do. Let me give you guys the backstory. So you guys all know that, sorry, just to finish off that point, that Moses was consumed with anxiety and whatever. They never made it all the way. He didn't push through with his faith. And then God says to Joshua, be strong and courageous. It's almost like, okay, to me, it's a signal like that's what was lacking and that's what's required, because obviously going to the promised land, we know there's giants in the promised land. So even when you get there, you're going to have to be prepared to fight. You're going to have the faith for that God is going to defeat those giants. And obviously, if you do have a fear of God and you do have faith, then it's like nothing that's in front of you, a 10 foot, 20 foot, 30 foot, an army of 1 billion. When you have the Lord, you have winning. So now it comes down to, I say to you guys all this stuff about we have to do when it counts. God, when he wants us to be obedient, doing what matters when it counts. And that's what this video is about to be about, because I realized I might have made a huge mistake and not even realized it. And the reasons for it go back to show that I maybe wasn't as developed, which I wasn't, but it's a lesson for us all. So let's flash back to me going to Italy. I'm going to tell you guys this whole story, and it's going to be quite fascinating. The first year I went to Italy was 2023, right? And it was one of those years where I woke up that year and I said, God, in 2022 January, I fasted 18 days water fast. In January 2022, we did the Wisdom for Winners, and that month and that's when we did the Book of Proverbs. And I was like, so if you guys want to see that, I did a whole video on one video per proverb, and or at least one video per proverb. And I'd said to God that year, I was like, God, whatever your will, your way, like whatever you want to do. That was the year where I gave up telling him I'll do anything apart from singing. And of course, lo and behold, 3 months later, I get a message from this lady I know in Italy. And she's like, do you want to come and sing in Italy on this job? And I was like, hell yeah. Of course I want to. And this is like a full circle moment I'm having right now, because I was watching One Piece when that happened, and I was actually just watching One Piece before I went to sleep. Oh yeah, good morning everybody. And so anyway, so she says that, and I'm thinking all about the singing. And I'm thinking that's my big step of faith. But then once I got there, it immediately occurred to me that I started to have these feelings that I wasn't really pushing into, because I wasn't yet at the confidence that I needed to be at, which I still am not there, but I've significantly improved. I felt like at the time, I realized after getting through like the first couple performances, and I was there for 3 weeks. We did like 4 locations. I can't remember exactly it all, but it is documented on my channel. And I remember it very quickly realizing, oh, this is a spiritual mission, because I felt like we were there for the performer. I'm not going to make it too much about people's names, because I don't want you guys to get lost in the story of it. I want us to focus on the lesson. The performer. Let's call him the singer, the main singer, right? So I started to realize, I think we're here for souls, because some of the people in that production, some of the people that were in the group I was in, I felt like the Lord wanted to get to for one reason or another. And there were, like, people did have breakthroughs. There was me praying with people or just talking to some people, and like, my friend as well, you know what I mean? And so we were actually doing the work of the Lord behind the scenes. And this is what I was saying to you guys at the time. I was like, what it looks like on the outside for why I'm here, what I'm actually doing is two things. And that's why it's important to have believers in all areas and all aspects. It's not good for us to just be in a little group where we all hang out together. We need to be out there because people need to hear, and they need to see. And so we did see some breakthroughs, like, while I was there, and like there was a lot of praying going on, especially between me and my friend. And we were getting like visions and all sorts of things about people there, one of which being the main performer. And here's where the lessons began, because we had this dynamic. Because she's older than me, she's like my parents' age, right? I was too kind of shy a lot of the times to like really double down in terms of some of the things I was thinking on a spiritual level. A, because I didn't want to seem like a know-it-all. B, because she's been a Christian longer than me and has more experience. So I was thinking my default setting, and this is where the problems begin, where I'm like, oh, the Lord is trying to like highlight some of my issues that that are actually preventing me from doing the very things I'm saying I want to do. So there was a bit of this dynamic of me not necessarily saying everything that I'm thinking in these scenarios and pushing, because I strongly felt like after all was said and done, and there was a lot of stress and chaos that happened the first year. We only really got into the proper groove of doing things literally earlier this year. And so I felt like everybody else, including the friend that brought me, had their eyes on the wrong. I felt between me and her that she didn't have her priorities straight. Because I was like, once we realized what we were doing, that we weren't really here to do very many songs. It wasn't like some big collab between her and him. We were just singing these, like, however many, there was like a total of 8 songs, whichever ones he selected. And that was it. So I was like, I feel like this is an opportunity, like, to really do some like spiritual work for him in particular and those people around. And then I started to listen to the music, and I started to get this essence of this female spirit that was just working against, because of the music that he has and the lyrics. And there's always this kind of like figure of this woman figure. And he's like, it's like, to me in his music, it sounds like he's crying out. Like, that's how I feel like, right? It sounds like he's crying out. So like for help, but with something. And obviously whatever that something is it's quite deep, because obviously, he's wealthy, he's successful, he's, whatever. And also I found it fascinating that him, as he is single, because I'm thinking, who wouldn't want to be with you? You're a very lovely man. You know what I mean? He's so sweet and gorgeous, but we're going to come back to that, because this all comes back to Jezebel, which I only realized this year. So anyway, we go through the motions of this whole day, this whole experience. I don't really say too much. We don't really do that much, although something does happen. There is a conversation had, we won't get into, which kind of confirmed what I was thinking. But again, I'm not really doubling down. And the reason is because I have somebody there who is my friend, who's the one who's like the connection of how we all got here. So I'm thinking more about their reputation than like what I would do if I didn't know her. So if I'd been booked on the job, but we weren't friends and I just was booked on the job, I would have done things a lot more differently. And that's what hit me yesterday, right? And we'll come back to exactly what that is in a second. So I leave. Obviously, when I go in, I'm just here panicking about the singing part. Then, as I told you guys at the time, I was like, oh, the singing ain't even the half of it. I was exhausted from the spiritual work that was going down. And again, it's one of those sad things when you're one of the people who's actually fighting spiritually, is it just looks to everybody else like, why are you so exhausted? And it's like, because I'm fighting in the spirit. You might not see me fighting in the streets. You might not see me arresting this, that, and the other. But on a spiritual level, I'm fighting. And that's where I'm exhausted a lot of the time. So I come back and I was exhausted. I was so exhausted. And I was like, I don't think I'm going back. Every time I've gone, I've said to myself, I think that's the last time I'm going. So the second time I go now, right, things are quite different. And now her priority was not so much the spiritual stuff almost at all anymore. And for me, it was even heightened at this point, because now I'm observing everything and I've taken things to myself. Because, I feel like a lot of times people have a tendency to just brush things off that are like small details that are hints. So like some of the things that were going down, like certain things in his production, especially a particular woman, I was observing her behavior like a hawk. Because you guys remember that we were able to just go and sit on the stage and see what was happening. And I noticed a particular woman who's not like his wife or anything. Like I said, he's single, attached to his hip. And like, she was like a gatekeeper, because it would almost be as if he would, like, if you would see them walking, he would be looking out to people as if like he wants to talk with everyone. And she would kind of be the one that's like, you can't do that. Which again, why can't he? This is his set. This is his show. He should be able to do what the hell he wants. If I had management like that ever tried to do that with me, I'll fire them on the spot. You're not about to tell me what I'm doing at my thing when this job that you have is only because of me and my hard work and my dedication. Absolutely not. But then he's a man. And this is where I'm saying about the Jezebel thing, and it all links into everything we're talking about now and how I have to come up against Jezebel, because of course, when Jezebel's in the room, no one's really taking her that seriously, because she's not overtly, outwardly too obvious. It's lots of little things rather than big, obvious things. So that was like Ahab and Jezebel. Jezebel, she wasn't like a Delilah, like I say, who blatantly was in your enemy's camp and blatantly, after Samson gave her the lied secrets, went and told his enemies, and he could see that with his bare eyes. Jezebels are better at, like I said, Ahab wanted some land. The guy whose land he wanted, he didn't want to give it up. And so he left it. And Jezebel goes and kills the guy so that Ahab can have the land. And then it becomes a gray area. You see what I'm saying? Because some will argue, well, she did that out of love, but that's how Jezebel works. She complicates things and she makes things gray. And that's the best way to confuse and abuse and manipulate the male population, because their brains are a lot more black and white. So when you get them into the gray, that's not their area of expertise, right? At all. And that's why when they see us women arguing about stuff, they think we're just arguing about nothing, or we're just being catty, because their brains can't comprehend in between the lines as well. So to them, they don't see the bigger picture. Whereas we know the meticulous nature of how we are. It's like, if I was going to, like, I've said this before, men, like, when they have an issue with each other, will fight, like, physically. Or they'll go and address the person, they'll deal with it head on. Us women, we plot and plan. Like, if I was to go against a man, if I was to actually try and destroy a man, I wouldn't go and destroy his car. I wouldn't go and vandalize or whatever. I wouldn't, do whatever in his house. I wouldn't call him out of his name. I would destroy him from the inside. I mean, we wouldn't see it coming. And one day he would wake up, find himself sitting in the corner of his house whimpering because everything's fallen apart in his life in every single area. And he wouldn't know how on earth it happened. And I would be satisfied with the satisfaction to just walk away and not say anything. And he would never, I'm telling you, this is how easy they are. This is why the Kingdom Darkness has been trying to recruit me since the beginning. So anyway, this woman's always with him, right? And I'm like, And I'm observing the both of them. And she's always like, it's like, it was almost as if like, there was like a shared spirit with everybody, between production, between us. And like, this one person, in my opinion, was the one causing the issues, because we had issues every single time with organizing things and how things were done, which is going to bring us to this year, right, in a second. But again, now at this point, my friend didn't think it was that big of a deal anymore. And she had her mind set on other things. She was more concerned about the fact that, like, why have we been brought here when, anyway. And I was like, I think this is why we're here, because I'm thinking, as a believer, like, sometimes God gives us opportunities where it's like, you're the one person I have who's there. And this is what I'm realizing is what I completely missed. You're the one person I have who's there. So while you're there, I need you to do this kind of thing. So so we had all of that, and I'm now feeling heightened, and now I've started to study his music, and now I'm starting to think, no, this is real. This is very real. This is really real. And it comes to this last time I went this year. So it's another year. And it's funny because that year, every year since the 2023, the last 3 years, my life has played out every month by month, the exact same. I have that prayer and panic with the Lord in January. By like March, I'm like already getting booked in to go to Italy. By this time of year, I'm kind of panicking about it coming to the end of the year. Towards the end of the year, I have some humbling realizations, because this happened to me last year in November as well. I had humbling realizations. 2023, my humbling realization in November was that God was like, the work I want you to do, you're not going to be able to do it alone, and you need to give up this dream of like just doing things alone, which started my last 2 years of misery. So I was talking with one of the lead female singer that he sings with, who opens the show, which again you guys would have seen. And then I was telling her about this, how my years keep playing out the same. She was like, well, maybe you keep coming, your year keeps repeating because you haven't learned the lesson. It's almost like I get through the whole year and it's like I played a game and I have failed the mission. And then it's like you get to the end of the game and you failed the mission again and you start again. So I was like, when she said that, I was like, right. So this year I was like, I'm going to make something different. I'm going to hold on to my faith. I'm really not going to like try and step in ahead of God in any way. And of course, that's why this year has been the hardest of the last 4 years, because I've now had to like really just be at the edge of my faith. Like I'm really trying not to step in before God. I thought that was the mistake. No. Here's what happened. So now I go to Italy. Again, nothing really happens. I'm now recognizing more than ever. I can feel it in the spirit. I can see it happening. This male lead performer guy, the guy who we're all here for, he progressively over the last 3 years, he looks less healthy, right? And she keeps looking healthier, which again is the signs of Jezebel, because she always like sucks the life out of the people around her. You see this with a lot of women who are like that today, where like their husbands look drained, their kids look like they're suffering. Everybody in the house is suffering, but they're happy. They're loving life. God, with God as my witness, let me never, in the name of Jesus, become a woman like that. That's one of my biggest fears, that I'm going to become one of those women that like, that's one of my biggest fears about having children myself, that I'll become one of those women who's just like so happy, like being selfish, and like just doesn't notice that I'm causing suffering to those people around me and just kind of happily goes off with whatever. It's genuinely one of my biggest fears. So I noticed that, and I was like, I even mentioned to my friend, and she was like, yeah, she looks like she's thriving. And I was like, yeah, whatever. So anyway, after all was said and done, we were supposed to come back in September, 2 months ago, to do his big birthday show in like one of, I think it's the most iconic stadium, or one of the most iconic stadiums in the country. And they had said at that time, they wanted to get us to do 10 days, 10 shows, which I was like, this is amazing. This is going to be just such a cool opportunity. So even when we left, me and the guys, we were all like, see you in September. Like we were also ready to see each other again. And we were also excited, especially because doing 10 shows, like by show number 3, like we've got this, we know what we're doing. Now we just get to have fun with it. Now we just get to enjoy ourselves. Like that's the great thing about, performances, is that like, especially if you're doing the same thing a lot of times, the first couple of times it's a bit nerve-wracking, and it is still nerve-wracking every time, but then it's fun because it's like, you know what you're doing now, and everything's kind of settled in, and everyone has their what do you call it, their what's the word? Like, you guys know I had my routine. There's the word. I had my routine, you know what I mean, of how I did things. I would always get there. I would vibe and jam until the penne came on. Then once that song happened, that's when I'll go and start doing my makeup, you know what I mean, and so on and so forth. And I had a specific order of things I would do. And then, showtime. Anyways, so, oh yeah. And it's important to mention while we're here, because this all comes down to lessons I'm learning through my own experiences. I would always be very stressed, because despite the fact I was one of the youngest always, there were a lot of adults in different ways that were just very comfortable putting responsibilities on my lap, or in my opinion, needed coddling. So like I said to you guys, some of the times people would be panicking about stuff going wrong, and I'm like the calm one, as I'm like, us panicking doesn't help anything. We need to just take a deep breath and just address the situation or whatever. You know what I mean? And for the believers in the room, I'm like, listen, guys, where's our faith? Like, listen, if something went wrong, oh, well, this is the business. You know what I mean? I'm like an amateur in the business. You know what I mean? I had a little taster, you know, myself, obviously, like the stuff I was doing before. But like you people, a lot of you have been doing this for decades. A lot of you people have performed all over the world. Like why are these grown adults way older than me, like so overwhelmed sometimes by very small things? Like, because I'll be getting into conversations where people would be upset about the smallest thing. And I'm just like, so I'm bearing a lot of weight on my shoulders, because a lot of people, like there was a few people, not a lot, but a few people who were quite happy to really heavily lean on me, like to do things, right? And really heavily lean on me for emotional support, and really heavily lean on me for like spiritual support, and really heavily lean on me to be the person that they were just going to go and take all their anger out on when they were angry. And of course, it's because I can handle it, because I don't freak out, I don't panic, I'm quite strong. I just sit there quietly, I continue with what I need to do. And I realized that's what started to make me rethink. In the last couple of years, I'm like, I need to really rethink my relationships, because I've realized I can't be in relationships with a lot of people, because a lot of people will just take advantage of my strengths for themselves, right? And unfortunately, it's actually more so women than it is men as well. You know what I mean? And so, you know, so anyway, this last time I went, I was there and a lot of stuff went down. And as I mentioned before, when I told you guys about what happened when I got to the airport in September, I left. And when I left, and while I was there, one woman had said something about another woman, a singer, behind their backs, and I didn't like it, right? And I didn't say something at the time. This is actually factors into what my epiphany was. I know this is a long story. And I was like, you know, I didn't like it. And I had to sit and think about what I was going to do, because it was one of those, and this is the theme of this whole thing, where I'm realizing that consistently doing the right thing costs me relationships, and it costs me a lot of things, right? Because I was like, I've told you guys, I don't really stick around for that type of thing. So when I knew that we were doing this, because I knew we had the September thing, I was like, I'm going to think about this. And if I'm going to address it, I'm going to address it in September, because if I address it now, A, I'm not really sure exactly what I'm going to say. B, I'm not sure if I have the place to say what I need to say, because again, we have these generational issues where I'm trying to respect the elders. This is why it's so funny how, you know, I say a lot of stuff and I'm trying my best, but there's still so much inside of me that automatically does certain things, because that's what I'm realizing, that had this not necessarily been an elder person, like in a different generation or whatever, I may not have reacted in the same way. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to think about this. And this is the other thing, I need time to think, because I feel like when we have free will and we do things, a lot of people, I feel like, just kind of act out of emotion or in the moment. Again, that's what I noticed with a lot of adults also while I was there, and also just in the world in general. A lot of adults, they just act kind of impulsively out of emotions, whereas I tend to be somebody where if I notice something that I want to say or I want to think about, I will take the time to think about it. And unfortunately, in a lot of cases, the amount of time I need to think about it is going to be at least a couple of weeks. I need to stew on it, right? Hence what brings us to why it took me so long to get to this epiphany. I know we're going to get there. So I, upon landing, was like, okay, again, I said to myself, I'm not coming back, because I was trying to, every time I've tried to weigh out my enjoyment of doing it, my love for the main key performer, my love for a lot of the people I get to work with, the money, with the spiritual weight, the emotional weight of it all, and the dealing with adults, right, part of it. So every time I'm like weighing if it's worth it, right? And that's why when I ended up not going this last time in September, I wasn't that upset about it, because I was like, you know what? I was only doing one show, and honestly, I was kind of dreading having to because even in the airport, every time I'm in the airport, I'm there like digging deep, like taking in my deep breath, ready to just like have to deal with people, which is why I like to be alone, because then I don't have to do all of that. I can just live, you know, comfortably. So I'm doing my deep breaths, you know, like getting myself mentally prepared, like trying to like kind of like gain energy to like have to because I know that once I get off that plane, until I get back on the plane, and then even when I get back off the plane, I'm just going to another version of the same thing. I'm just going to another version of, like, you know what I mean? The spiritual weight, the emotional weight, everybody's feelings. Like, it's always everybody's feelings. Everybody needs so much coddling. And this is where I went wrong. So I come back. I had, as soon as, when a plane landed, I don't know what it was about when the plane landed or something, but just after, it hit me. Oh my gosh, it was Jezebel. I hadn't realized that all these 3 years that's who I was dealing with. And I'd even been talking about her. So she was there laughing at me the whole entire time. So I hadn't even told her, right? I hadn't even noticed it was her, specifically a name, because I was like, I need a name. Like, especially when you're dealing with like demonic entities, I always need a name so that we know what we're talking to and who we're talking to. And that's why the demons, they don't ever want you to find out what their names are, because then you would be able to deal with them. Hence me and this anxiety thing. I never considered myself an anxious person until even so many symptoms that I'm having at the moment are all things that are linked to anxiety. I keep looking up, like, even if I do go to the most reliable doctor, of course, Google, and search some of my random symptoms that I have, it's like, this is caused by stress and anxiety. I'm like, really? I thought there was going to be some like dietary thing I wasn't doing, or I thought there was going to get some kind of craziness, and everything keeps going back to stress and anxiety. So that anxiety was just there, and I just couldn't name it because I didn't know what it was. But now that I can, now I'm dealing with it. It's just what they didn't want over there in the kingdom of darkness, which goes back to this whole be strong and courageous thing we're about to talk about. So after I had time to think, I'd realized it was Jezebel. I go to Poland, meet Jezebel. Great. And then I had contacted my friend in Italy to say, oh my gosh, it's Jezebel. Like, and this is one of those moments that makes me sad and why I don't really like relationships. Because I was so excited, because I'm thinking, we know like what we're dealing with, like now we can come up against it, because I'm thinking we need to come up against, like I was getting so fired up to come up against Jezebel, right? And I felt like she wasn't there to like support that and like be in it. And I'm like, what's the point of us being believers and us walking around boldly, especially those older people, her included, so prideful about, you know, a believer of God and I don't do this because of God and all of this. If like now we know what we're dealing with, like let's go to battle now. Like I was so disappointed. I was heartbroken. I sent her a message while I was in Poland, a voice note, and being like, oh my gosh, it's Jezebel. And she's like, oh yeah, that's cool. And she kind of just like brushed it off. And I was like, yeah. So anyway, when it was official that was coming in September, my tickets had been booked. I had resolved within myself that I was going in there to address everything. I was like, okay, we're doing it. We're doing it. Whatever the cost, I'm going to do it. Which is why I believe I ended up not going. Because like I said, that they'd booked the flights the wrong way around. And again, I had kind of noticed that they might be, but it's in Italian. And also I was kind of scared, because this is what I mean. I get scared to sometimes to speak up to people because of this whole respect of elders, and I'm just younger. Maybe I'm wrong, because that's the way the devil always gets me with maybe you're wrong though. What if you're wrong? What if you're inexperienced? Because that's also what a lot of adults use as an excuse for their behavior. I'm so used to hearing that and it's the same with the kids, like kids, that happens with them, with their own parents, with other adults, where they might say something valuable and valid, but they'll get shut down for their age because no one wants to address the truth of what they're saying. So I don't know how I don't apply these things to myself, but I didn't. Anyway, so that happened, the fires happened, a lot of things happened, and I ended up not getting on the flight, I ended up not going. Right? And this was another one of those situations where I had a friend who then just something happened and they all of a sudden never spoke to me again. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I told you this stuff doesn't change. So ever since that day, like the morning after we spoke about everything, they were able to find somebody to cover my place. We just never spoke again. And I thought to myself, you know what? That just confirms what I was thinking all along, that I'm just here when you're in need, but you don't actually really care when that's not the case, and the other way around, you know what I mean? So that's what stuck out to me. So anyway, now in all of this, I now realized that where I was spending, and this was the epiphany, where I was spending all this time still being a hypocrite, doing the very things I speak up against, right? I was not being strong and courageous, because what I should have just done in the first year is go to the man my damn self. Because the whole purpose of the Lord allowing me to be this person who just doesn't care about the rules, because a lot of what we were doing, I was only behaving because of the friendship element. That was the thing that was preventing me. If I had been just hired, like booked, I would have been like, to hell with it. To hell if I get fired, I'm going in to do what I need to do. That was the barrier that was preventing me from doing anything, because I was fearful of how it was going to affect them. And so it's like, who should you have paid attention to, who it's going to affect? the person who is actually deeply in need, not the person who's already in the flock anyway, supposedly. So that was where I went wrong. So all along, what I should have just done is what I would have done otherwise, which is to hell with the rules and to hell with the societal, like, oh, you can't talk to them because I remember even a few times I spoke with the guy because people wouldn't speak to him because they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know if you should speak to him because he's famous. But I would still talk to him anyway because you guys know me. I'm like, again, I don't really care about the rules if they don't make any sense to me. And so that's what I should have freaking done in all of this. That's what I should have freaking done, is I should have just gone for it. I should have just gone for it in the moment, because all the signs around me were showing that nobody else was going to do it. Just like I always say to you guys, that, oh my gosh, and it's because I went in with the thought thinking that we would together. Again, I made the same damn mistake again that I've been talking about on my channel, of thinking that I'm going to step in and we're all going to agree that there's an issue here and we're actually going to do something, but we didn't. Because the thing that was my final straw with this whole situation is we were supposed to do 10 days, like I said, and they ended up doing 1 day. Why is that? Well, Jezebel in question, right? Jezebel in question. I'm thinking, it's this man's 70th birthday. We're all here because of him, and you guys have been touring for 4 years. You mean to tell me that you're having issues booking us there for 10 days? I know, and this is one of those where people say, well, you don't know the finer details. I'm like, this is where you're thinking worldly and not on a spiritual level. Because on a spiritual level, this man wanted to do it. And you know what broke my heart? The one show that did happen, which was the one that was on his birthday, he had to pay, production didn't pay for, he paid it for from his own pockets. Even though the production should be able to afford for it. You know why? Because they were fighting back and he had to fight again, despite having people that are supposed to be representing him, looking after him on his birthday. He had to dig in his own pockets to have us there. That's why I realized when we used, at the beginning, when it seemed like maybe they didn't actually want us there, it wasn't that maybe he didn't want us there. It was maybe she didn't want us there, because on a spiritual level, I believe, I've seen it happen 100 times. Like I said, I've experienced it all throughout my life where there's like another woman, and the reason that the problem starts is because of my spirit, the spirit that dwells within me, that makes their spirit uncomfortable. And it's like when you're, and it's not just me in particular, it's any real child of God. Any real child of God, when you have the Spirit of the Lord dwelling within you, when you're around people who are operating out of those other spirits, yeah, those spirits become uncomfortable because they know that, oh, that person has a spirit in them. I remember even a guy who was one of the like, what is it? They call them grand witches in what do you call it? I don't want to use the wrong word here, but I want to use the word Illuminati, but it's not that. It's a different word. Whatever the name is, I forget the name. But you know the whole pyramid and how in the devil's kingdom, like with his people on earth, he's got him, there's like him, and then he's got like his little group of families that are in control of everything. And then there's the 13 witches, and then those are the 13 grand witches, and then there's the 33 members, it's in Freemasons, I think, at the very top, whatever as well. And then there's like the whole different factions, and it goes down like that. That's how the pyramid works, right? And again, it's kind of like how God does things. You know, you have the supreme at the top, and then you have the 12 disciples, but instead he has 13 grand witches, whatever they're called. Anyway, so one of those guys, one of those guys, who they now have shoveled off, by the way, to a psychiatric ward in Carolina, who used to work in the entertainment industry, where he exposed in the 70s that they would take the masters of these rock songs, which I didn't know that till 2017, rock was actually the #1 listened to genre in the United States. Was not aware, did not listen, if ever grow up around any rock. I've only got into rock these recently. They would take these masters in their studios, in their record labels, and they would put demons on the master track, so that anytime that the track was recreated, it would take demons along with them. And he was schooling in this church. I heard the tape. I didn't even read this somewhere. I heard the tape with his voice of him at a church explaining how there's witches all over the United States stationed. And the thing that I wanted to mention about him in particular was that he mentioned that a witch will always spot a Christian before the Christian spots the witch. And I was like, wow. And it just does make sense. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I feel like, as well, for me, I've always been on the back foot, like right now, because the other team notices when there's the real deal around, And the real deal, we catch up late, and it's because they see us as the enemy, and we're not necessarily worried about enemies, because whatever happens, listen, we got the Lord. They know that they can't get to us. Witches are aware that the real true children of God, they can't get to. And you've heard stories of people where they've tried to, do all this spiritual work with people, and they've seen like a protective barrier literally around the children of God that they can't get through, right? With some of the witchcraft they're trying to do. So I believe we were in one of them situations, hence why I didn't notice. But I could feel the tension. There was tension in the room. And so I'm now thinking, yeah, God was like, in the eyes of the world, I was too worldly. I chose the worldly option, because in the eyes of the world, I might have created a bit of chaos, a bit of uncomfortability. I might have got fired. But in the eyes of God, right? Because I'm thinking of Esther, right? Esther had to step forward to speak to the king. That was technically illegal for her to do, because the wife of the king, she's not supposed to. She has to be summoned. She can't just walk up to him. But she had to. She had to just do it. And like, this just never occurred to me, because had I realized any of this whilst I was there, I would have immediately acted upon it. And that's why I feel like as soon as I decided that I was going to go and address everything, I was going to address this talking behind somebody's back, I was going to go head first for Jezebel, no matter what, I was going to put it out all on the line. Like, I was really going to put everything on the line and I was prepared to just deal with whatever the consequences were going to be. Like, whatever the consequences, look, hey, I don't know if I got arrested, ended up in Italian prison, I was going to just do it, right? I was so ready. And I feel like that's how I ended up not going. And I was just like, after I realized after the fact, and now after I had this epiphany, and now going back to the be strong and courageous, it's like, this is what we're talking about. This is what we're talking about. Like, just do it. Why was I? Because I had that feeling, and I get it all the time around people, of like, maybe I should just shy away. It's kind of like me and writing music. I don't really want to write the music I want to write, because I feel like when I say what I'm going to say, it's going to be a bit too real. Like, because I won't hold back. It'll be very unfiltered. And I feel like it's a bit too real. The same thing I'm doing on YouTube. Like, the reason why I haven't brought up a lot of the stuff I'm talking about now all these years is because I'm like, should I really talk about that? Like, I'm always trying to shy away. And it's something I'm really working on. And it's like, shying away is the opposite of being courageous. I don't know how this didn't dawn upon me properly. And I really got to stop doing that. And like trying to just like, because that's what I do in these situations. Because I'm like, okay, well, you know what? You're older, or like you're more talented, or you're more experienced. So I'll just, I always do that around people. Well, not always. Sometimes I do get overwhelmed with the Holy Spirit, and I do step forward. And that's why I think that, to an extent, I do believe that God kind of allowed things to play out the way they did for a reason. Like, to kind of get me to understand the degree of what he's saying when he says it, you know what I mean? And what he means. Because now that I'm realizing that I missed so much that was right in front of my face. I still allowed things to kind of make me shy back. And I was literally the one that was there. Like what I was saying. So I'm saying I'm a hypocrite, because I was the one that was there to do the thing. And I didn't do the thing. I did not do the damn thing. I didn't even think to do that damn thing, because I was out here thinking about societal this and that. I was like, and this is where there's an attack on this. I'm going to do a part 2 next, because this is quite long, and this is the point that I wanted to make about the epiphany. But in the next part, I'm going to talk about, the mental aspects, the mental gymnastics that the devil plays when you're the one person holding on to your faith. Because I feel like so much of what I'm saying, there was so many mental gymnastics of like, me feeling unqualified, or not, or I don't want to be disrespectful. I don't want to, my thing that the devil always gets me with is, I guess, my empathy in a way, because it's like, I'm always thinking of others and how things affect other people. But I've realized that I need to kind of just like not care. In a lot of situations, I just need to not care. Because I need to just be focused on the mission rather than the people's feelings. And anyway, we're going to talk about that in another part 2, because this bit is quite long. So I'll do a second video. But yeah, you guys, that was the epiphany. I was not being strong and courageous, because I was there. It's like, the moment is here. You go for it. You just go. And I was just there, kickly cackling, making videos, vlogging, which is good. But like that was the time, and like even some of the things I haven't spoken about, like because now I'm gonna have to spend some time thinking about how I'm gonna take off all these layers of things I've been keeping inside, trying to do the right thing, trying not to expose people, because it's not about the people. That's why I try to avoid bringing names and things into it, because it's not about the people. It's about the lessons on a spiritual level, and it's about whatever is God's will. So I'm trying to navigate that. And where I'm navigating that, when I'm dealing with people who are about the chaos and who are about the drama, it makes it really hard, because the world is like that, when I'm trying to do the things of God and I'm trying to do things with the right intentions, people perceive that as me also being like the other people, whereas I'm just trying to show a lesson. My whole point of everything I just shared with you guys wasn't about any of the people in particular or judgment of any of them. It was to show you how I experienced over the last 3 years, realizing just how serious it was when God said to Joshua, be strong and courageous, and how you can actually miss your opportunities. And sometimes you can pray to God for everything, to do everything, and think you're doing things. But in actuality, it's like the one thing that God is asking for you to do is the thing that you didn't do. The one thing that God was giving you the opportunity to do, you didn't do. And so that's what just hit me yesterday. So anyway, like I said, I'm going to do a part 2, and I'm going to talk about the mental gymnastics aspect, because I've been going through the mental gymnastics. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I know I'm probably, just to give you a heads up, I'm going to be sharing more details. I'm just going to have to, it's going to have to be to heaven with it. Like whatever happens, whatever the fallout is, because I don't want to deal with the fallout. I don't want to get people, the reason I don't talk about things on YouTube is I don't want people to start messaging me like, oh, I heard this in your video, I heard you talking about this, because it's not about the people, it's about the thing. And that's what the thing that makes me hold back, because if I write in my music what I really feel, if I talk on YouTube about what I really have to say, I feel like it's going to be about my life, right? And I feel like some people are just going to make it all a thing of like, oh, let's talk. I didn't like you said this. I feel uncomfortable with that. And it's like, no offense, I don't care, because it's not about what happened. You've been forgiven. I pray for you anyway. I keep you at arm's length because I can't afford to have people like that in my life. But I'm here trying to do the work, so I don't want to have to then go in, because then it's like you're dealing with people again and people's feelings. I don't know how I felt about your video, how I feel about what you said in your song. Like, I don't have to deal with it. And that's why I'm kind of shying away, but I'm kind of realizing I'm just going to have to bear the brunt, which is a very humbling lesson. Like I said, every November, the Lord hits me with some humbling lesson where it's like, yeah. Anyways, you guys, if life's a game, let's play to win. I'll catch you in part 2, where I'm going to talk about the mental gymnastics that the devil plays. If life's a game, let's play to win. God bless you all. God loves you. I love you. And I'll see you in my next one.